Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Amateur Repair Time. A few weeks ago, I did a video where I needed to show some VHS tapes. And we ended up watching those on a little TV that I had laying around. But this was the TV that I was going to watch them on. But whenever I got this thing out of the closet, I've had this for quite a while. Whenever I turned it on, it didn't work anymore. It would just click. It made like a kind of a little bit of a squealing noise, and then would turn back off. So if you don't watch our other channel, I have a history of working on arcade games and pinball machines. That's kind of what I do for a living. And in the arcade games, of course, you have to work on the monitors a lot. So the early arcade games we work on, most of them have Electro Home G07 monitors in them, which were 19-inch monitors that came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And then a lot of Wells Gardner stuff, like the Wells Gardner K4600, the K4900, the K7000. And so those I'm pretty familiar with. I've worked with a ton of them, hundreds of them. But on those, it's kind of, you don't even completely have to understand the circuits because you're working on the same model over and over again. So a cap kit fixes a lot of stuff, and then each one of them have their own little peculiarities, or you go through it and you can get the thing going again if you know about them or you've worked on them. Well, this is a different beast. This is a Zenith color TV. This is a Zenith color TV television, so it's a little different than the arcade monitors because it has a tuner. The arcade monitors are just stripped down television monitors, basically. They have a simpler circuit because they just take a RGB video input and sync video input, and they don't do audio. With the exception of the stuff that Nintendo uses, the Sanyo stuff. So this is a little more complex, but it's still in the wheelhouse of what I've messed with before. So I think this one's from like the mid-80s or late 80s. And it's got the cool wood grain cabinet. When we did that video with the VHS tapes, or the VCR, that little gray TV that we've had that around the house for a long time too. But this is more my speed. I was born in '78, so when I was a kid, this was more of what you saw. Still saw the wood grain and the plastic, and this was kind of like an '80s thing. That gray one is more like a late '90s thing. So yeah, I've had those too, of course, but I don't really have any nostalgia to those. This I have some nostalgia for. This kind of reminds me of playing my Nintendo. Whenever we first got our Nintendo, I think we got it in '87, Christmas of '87. We played it on something like this. I remember it sitting on the table playing it. So out of the two, if I'm going to keep a CRT around, and actually I've got another one too, but this is out of the more small portable ones. This is a 19. I think that little gray one's a 13. I don't really need that gray one, but I'd like to have this one working and have this one running. So I figured we'd see if we can repair it. I think I know what's wrong with it, but you know how that goes. So I'm going to break a rule of common sense and turn the thing on, not working, knowing that it's not working. And just so you can see what it does. I'm only going to do it for a second, but the problem is I've already done it, so any damage that's done has probably already been done, right? I think there's a IC in the power supply that's screwed up, but I'm just going to show you what it's doing, and then we'll go from there. I've actually already taken it apart. I've got the back off of it and stuff, so I'm going to tinker with it, get it back together enough that I can power it up, and so you can hear what it's doing, and we'll go from there. So that's what we got. And so normally I wouldn't do that knowing that the thing's messed up. You don't really want to keep plugging it in, especially with the fault that I think it has. So I think the power supply is screwed up. There is a IC in the power supply that creates the voltages and things. And that's that squeal you're hearing. Usually when you get a squeal like that, something like that's going on. Well, I need a TV. I need a CRT if we're going to watch any of those videos. This one's pretty dirty though. Probably needs a cap kit. Is it after midnight? No, it's only 11:30. So I have recapped a lot of it, replaced a lot of the capacitors, thinking maybe the capacitors were bad. Unfortunately, I don't have a schematic for it. You can see my new beautiful green caps in there. There's stuff all over the place I've recapped. But still the problem persists. So I'm going to pull the board out so we can get to that little part, and I'll show you what I think the culprit is. So I'm going to show you the top of the board, and I'm going to show you the bottom of the board. That right there is an IC chip. It's like a power regulator. Okay, and there's a capacitor here, a capacitor here. And I have replaced those. I've looked around at the other things, like check the resistance here and stuff, just to see if the cap's shorted. And again, I don't have a schematic, so I'm not completely sure what the circuit is like. Is that bulged up? No, it's not. It's just a reflection. It looks weird because it's new. So I was about to say, did it burn up? Turn on that one. Let me. No, it's just an illusion. Or are it? Okay, let me flip it over and I'll show you the circuit on the bottom a little bit. So here's the bottom. Again, I don't have a schematic. This is the transformer. Where does the power come in? The power comes in here. Fuses and things, you know, it's doing its thing. And then, like I said, this is the transformer. Well, if you look right here, these 5 pins right here, that is a voltage regulator chip. The Sanyos that I've worked on, not the Sanyos, the Wells Garner K7000s that I've worked on, often you have problems with the power regulation, like this chip can be a problem. So, looking online, I found, luckily, that Radio TV Phono Nut did a couple videos where he talks about these Zenith 80's sets. And he mentioned that this power transistor goes bad in them a lot, and also the capacitors that work in that circuit go bad a lot. For the 10th time, I don't have a schematic. So I hate to keep saying that, but without that, I'm kind of flying blind, and I can't find anything like it. There's a whole bunch of sites online that are, you know, you got to sign up, you got to give them $20, and then they claim they'll give you the schematic. My mama didn't raise no fools. I'd rather just figure it out myself than pay $20 for a schematic that may or may not exist on that site. And this isn't really my wheelhouse. I work on arcade monitors, but this is really a completely different thing. So I don't have a ton of experience with the TVs. But I do have a lot of experience knowing that Radio TV Phono Nut knows what the hell he's talking about. So if he says that transistor goes bad a lot, I don't mind pulling the thing out and comparing it to a new one and seeing if I can tell anything. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go from there. So yeah, so I'm going to get the soldering iron and I'm going to desolder those 5 pins and then try to slide that thing out. Yeah, I think it's one of the ones that just has a clip holding it in place or something. I can't quite tell. Yeah, so that little silver clip there, that will just pop out of that heat sink and then we should be able to get it out. So wish me luck. That's next. Okay. So here is the original part. 223-28. That apparently is a Zenith part number, which is actually a Sanyo STR 53041. Or is it Sanyo? SK? I think it's Sanyo, isn't it? Let me think. Yeah, that's Sanyo. So these are supposedly tested working Sanyo. And this would have been, I guess, Zenith's part number for the same thing. I wonder if you can tell by that little... Let's see if it's got the little Sanyo die. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So the theory that we're working behind, is that something shorted, a cap somewhere shorted on the secondary. So that, you know, the primary would be the B plus going into it, and then or I guess not, that wouldn't be the B plus. I guess the line voltage going into it, the 120, and then there's secondary voltages coming out of it. On a K7000, I think there's only one voltage that comes out of it, though. I don't know, whatever. One of the pins isn't hooked up as well. So like, I think it's this fifth one down here, doesn't actually connect to anything. It mounts in the board, but it doesn't actually have a trace attached to it, which is the same on the K7000s. Okay, so what I'm going to do, so the working theory is that a cap shorted and shorted this out. And then now I have replaced the caps, so there's no longer a short, but this is screwed up now. It may have been, you know, this cap right in front of it, or this one here. So that's the theory that we're working on. So I'm going to test this by just checking resistance from leg to leg and comparing it with this one, and then just seeing if there's anything obviously different. I've been able to do that on the Sanyos, on these that are in the Wells Gardner monitors. And what you'll find is one of them will be shorted, or two of them will be shorted. So two of the legs will be shorted together if there's a problem. Well, I got good news and bad news. The good news is it's not burnt up. The bad news is it's not burnt up. That would have been the easy fix. So, Okay, so this is testing exactly like these. And there's no short or anything. And there's the center plate on these is connected to the center leg. And if you just measure pin to pin against each other and everything, all three of these act exactly the same. It still could be that the thing just doesn't work under voltage. So we'll put one of these in whenever we put it back in. But I'm not so sure that that's our problem. So I think what I'll do is I need to look up the schematics. We don't have the schematic of this, but we can get the schematic of this and see what the output, what the secondary side is. And just look at, like, you know, a circuit diagram of how this is typically used. And it should help us test to see if there's a short, an obvious short on whatever the output of this is. Usually whenever you get the squealing sound like that, there's some kind of short going on. Aha! I did find the schematic. What do you think about that? All right, so this is the regulator over there on the left, switch mode, power supply, IC 3431. That's what we're messing with. So it looks like that's fine, or test fine. So the output appears to be pin 2 there. And there are two electrolytic capacitors, C432 and C434, that appear to cause issues. So I'm pretty sure I replaced both of those. I think I did everything, but let me double, triple, quadruple check just to make sure. Because Googling, it looks like that's a common problem, and that's what Radio TV Phono Nut mentioned. I've been messing with this thing for a few months, I think a few months. So I can't remember for sure if I definitely swapped both of them. Let me go check. 432 and 434. And now for a special treat. We're going to test the tube, see if the tube has a short in it, which is what's frying the board. Hopefully not. I can't remember if on setup you can already see the shorts. 6.3 heater, 60 volt G1, line voltage is at 115. That's got to be off. That's got to be off. On ours, here at the house, it's like 125. Okay, but I use this all the time. So you see your shorts down here. No shorts. All right, so let's set our cutoffs. Or not set our cutoffs. I wonder if I'm using the wrong adapter. I don't think I am. Something's wrong somewhere. Wow, I must just have an incredibly weak tube. Or I have fried this thing without even knowing it. So you're supposed to set your cutoff to the first little hash after 0. Let's put it back to normal, see if it likes that better. It doesn't like anything. Something's wrong somewhere. What am I doing wrong? And let's put it to test. Yeah, it does not like something. It's saying I've got a little bit of green. Something's wrong somewhere. That's better. Bad connection on the tube socket. Well, no. Still not letting me adjust it. Did I bring home the wrong one? Did I bring home the one that's fried? Yeah, I'm screwed. Oh, no, I'm on setup. Never mind. Never mind. It's supposed we're at the same place we were. Basically, I got nothing on the cutoffs. So when I test, I get a little bit of life on the blue. Yeah, I think the tube's just worn out. I'll see if I can clean it slightly, see what happens. All right, it actually worked out really well. So basically, I was getting nothing on it. You saw I couldn't even really set the cutoff on the blue. So, I mean, I barely could. You saw I could get up to like hash 2, right? So I just put it on restore and rejuvenated all 3 channels. And it's looking a heck of a lot better now. So I went back to set the cutoff. And I am able to dial it in now, like usual. I think the tube was just flat out. I know for a fact that this TV sat around. It was one of those deals where it was in a bedroom and people would go to sleep with the TV on. And so I know for a fact that it was on for years, for hours each day. It's one of those sets that just got played hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Right. So we've got our cutoff. Now let's test and see what we get. Now that shaking isn't great. Okay, so the red looks like it's pretty strong. The green is a little bit weaker. And the blue is pretty strong. So I'm cool with all that. Okay, so you can also do this tracking adjustment. I don't know that I can do it while I'm holding a camera. So basically, you hold the button down and you turn the knob until you're lined up with tracking. So that's on red. And then the green is within that area and the blue is within that area. So that's actually good tracking too. Now, you could zap the green just a little bit more. I don't really like doing that though. I don't like trying to perfect them, because every time you zap it, you're taking a little life off the tube. You know what? Like I said, I've done a ton of arcade games, but watching Shango do these old TVs, he never rejuvenates them, because he basically says, look, if the tube is worn out, you're done. That's kind of been my experience with the arcade games. If you zap them, it kind of wears off after a while, and it's not long. So I don't know. I think I'm going to just be happy with that. We had all of them down at nothing. Now we've got them up looking pretty good. So I think I'm just going to live with that. All right, folks, I'm knee deep in this thing. I've been working on this on and off for like a week. And I don't really know how these switching power supplies work. So what I did was, I thought maybe I got some fake parts, you know, because you can't trust anything on eBay. So I ordered some more that are confirmed pulls from Zenith television sets. See this little dot? That means that, like, basically it has something to do with that's the actual part that Zenith was using if they weren't using their own numbered one. Anyway, these are confirmed pulls from Zenith equipment, new old stock Zenith modules, right? So I put one of those in, same thing. Like I said, it's been a week, so I don't know if I showed you all this, but I've got 163 volts here. I've got negative 7 volts here. I don't have any output where I'm supposed to. I have 163 volts here. I have 0 volts here. What's going on? I don't know. So then I started thinking, well, maybe there's something over on the secondary side that's dragging it down. And it just, because if you look at this, this is just going to be on whenever it's plugged in, or maybe this line here turns it on. I don't know. But if there was a problem with the other side, if there was a short over here, it would do just what ours is doing. It would squeal, because this is turning on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off really quick. And that's the squeal that you're hearing, right? So I started checking. Clocks are going off. It's clock time, folks. What? It struck kind of weird. Did you hear it do like an extra one in the middle there? Or maybe I think it was 2 clocks or something. I don't know. Anyway, so what I've done is I've checked every trace. I've checked every component, with the exception of some of the small capacitors that, you know, those hardly ever go bad. I was getting to those next. And when I check here on this 15 volt, this diode checks out fine. All of this is good. But if you check here, this diode tested shorted. Ah, what's going on here? So if I tested from this point, my 122 volts, which is going to be the B+, you know, also known as the most important voltage in the set. And by the way, on TVs, the B+ voltage, that actually comes from radios. They had the B voltage on radios. That's where that originated, because radios preceded televisions. So this B+, I'm getting a measurement of 11 across the filter capacitor, 11 ohms across the filter capacitor. And this is tested basically shorted, right? But, you know, this is just a little diode on a heatsink. That's not usually it. So our old friend, the hot is dead shorted. Shorted all to heck. Hopefully the flyback isn't as well. But when I remove the hot, it is in fact shorted. And here on the board, if I check the traces that the hot was in, they are no longer shorted. And my filter cap is no longer shorted. Typically, something like a hot doesn't just die, though. You know, something usually blows it. So it could be capacitors, or I don't know. Hopefully it was capacitors, and I swapped a good many of the capacitors, so hopefully we found whatever was doing it. It could be the flyback. I've heard that on this set, the flyback is pretty rowdy, pretty randy. So I got to figure out what I can replace this hot with, if there's a different part number, or you know, maybe this is something more standard that I've already got at the shop, or if not, I'll order one. But that's our next step. All right, folks, so I was able to buy some brand new hots on eBay. 1141-01, which is the Zenith number. And so I put one in. We're going to test it. Another thing that I noticed that's kind of interesting is this board, the neck board, was once part of this board. So they were producing them on one chassis, and then I guess populating it and then cutting it loose to make the neck board. I just think that's kind of neat. Just interesting seeing how they were doing production. And all right, so we're going to fire it up, and that will test our flyback for us. It could be the flyback's bad, but typically when I have a problem like that, on an arcade game at least, whenever you remove the hot, the board will still seem shorted, and the short is gone. It's only on the original chip. With that said, though, usually something makes those fail. So I've replaced the caps, or most of the caps. So hopefully it was just a cap, or it had a bad night or something, and it doesn't just fry again as soon as we get it up and running. If it does, we'll have to suspect this flyback. I've heard, though, like I said, though, that these flybacks are pretty reliable. Okay, so let me slide it back in the tube and keep your fingers crossed. All right, folks, so the hot is right there on the side. I'm going to plug it in. And remember, the TV's not turned on. We were getting that squealing because of the hot being shorted. That's the theory, at least. That sounded better. Let's watch it for a second. It's not squealing. Doesn't seem to have caught on fire. But again, we don't have nothing's turned on. But it's not squealing. What do you think? Are we out of the woods? Will she fire up? Will she fire up? I don't know, man. I'm a little worried. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Act right now, baby. Come on now, baby. Hey, she's back. I love it. I always like this TV. It's just a cool freaking TV. Now, it may blow the hot again, or it may have a problem that we didn't fix. That was what originally blew the hot. But it is working right now. But you know what? We're going to do a twofer on this video. I've got another piece of equipment that I want to test with this TV. So let me turn it back off and carefully put the back on it. And then I have a piece of equipment that I want to use this TV to test real quick. Okay, so I don't have the right cables, but it's going to be all right, folks. Don't worry about it. So this is an NTSC video tester thing. I bought this at an auction a while back for like $8. But I just noticed the fuse is missing out of it, and I don't have the right power cord. So I have jumpered over the fuse and have tied one lead to one side of a stripped power cord. And then the other side, I didn't have another good test lead, so I've got this little tiny one on the other pin for the power, right? And it's actually plugged in right now, so you were worried about nothing. So that's the power. But then the other problem is it has a little output cable here. But the output cable has test leads on the back. And I need to get it in the... and I don't have the... So I just kind of used some clips to get it on the cable, and I put a cable in it. Look, folks, don't worry about it. You're not even here. You can't possibly get hurt. So, of course, we'll just flip her on real quick. The light's on. I've never used one of these. B&K Precision, Dynascan, Raster, Convergence. This is so cool. Standard patterns. Hell yeah. Man, I hope this thing works. Ooh, I hope it works. So I hooked it up to the composite video. I would think that would work. What do you think? And then there's the sound. Okay. All right. So hopefully we don't fry nothing. Ooh, I think it's working. I don't know what channel it would be on, you know. I kind of see it. How do I change the channel? Okay, let's do raster on, convergence dots. Okay, you can only do one. Okay, raster on. Let's see if I can find the channel. You would think it'd be on like channel 3 or something. Yeah, I think I've got it. Just I kind of see it whenever we go between channels. See, like it's kind of there. So I'm sure I got something messed up. Oh, there's a... I can do a minimum and a max. NTSC standard patterns. Staircase, low, high, bars, IWQ, chroma, full burst, top burst. I don't know. Crosshatch. I wonder if I have it on the wrong output. There's an output on the back as well. If I change the sync, it changes. It could be I've got a dodgy connection with my little connectors too. How do I change the channel that it comes in on? Maybe it won't work with this tuner or something. I do have it on crosshatch. On channel 68. So it looks like we're too high now. She's trying. I wonder if I've got something misadjusted here. This actually says RF. Maybe it'll like my RF better. Channel 3. What's that? Bam! Boy, it really works when you read the instructions, doesn't it? Okay, this is pretty cool. God, it's so cool. That is so cool. Okay. So N is white. Maybe that should be red, green. Oh, okay, green, red. Ooh, that don't look good. Blue. Yeah, my red is looking pretty rough, but is it that or is it the tube? Green looks good. Blue looks really good. Yeah, red doesn't look very good, but I don't think this has individual color. Oh, you know what? It might have a hue. Tint. That's what it's got. Let's tint it. shall we? Green. Yeah, our red's not looking that great. Picture, black level, color level, and sharpness. So just color level. Shouldn't make it be more red, you know. Oh no, well, I take that back. All right, and then we also have picture. So there's picture, and then we have black level. Okay, we'll do that. And there's picture. And this is sharpness, actually, which we're not going to be able to tell. Okay, so that's red. Green's much better. Blue's much better. If I turn on red and blue, you don't even see the red come in because it's so out of adjustment. You know, I could. We tested the tube and the tube was fine. Wonder if it's just an adjustment on the neck board. Well, hell, I'm gonna have to take the damn back off again. All right, so yeah, the red knob was actually turned down a little bit. Maybe it was stronger, or maybe it was weaker before we zapped it, and that's just how it was adjusted the last time. So now I've found this color bars screen, and I think you can use it to set the tint, but I don't really know how it's supposed to be. So we've got white, yellow, blue, green, red, red, blue. So if I turn the tint, now we've got white, yellow, kind of baby blue, green, purple, blue, purple, red, and blue. So blue and red make purple, green and blue make yellow, and then this is kind of like a gray. So I don't know, that's probably right, isn't it? Let's see if I keep going. See, now it's too green. Yeah, so that's all green. And if I go the other way, it's all red. So it must be that you're supposed to be somewhere in the middle. I'll bet these are supposed to help you do it. So if I go all the way that way, we got blue here, but not there. And then if I go all the way this way, we've got blue here, but not there, and this stays white. So maybe you match the two bottom ones about like that, which looks about right. And so this is color level, and you can make it burn out. This is sharpness. Blurry. I don't know how sharp we want it. That's picture. And then this one is black level. So another thing too is if you look, see the green? So it's a little too green, but tint won't really fix that. You could argue that the green should be turned down a little bit. On arcade games, that's kind of how we do it. We'll turn it up, the background up a little bit, and then you can see what color there's a little bit too much of. I guess there's a little bit too red. I mean, a little bit too green, which would also be not quite enough red. But we're probably pretty close. So. Looks pretty good. All right, so that's the bars, the staircase, green. That's the same thing we saw in the background. Center cross looks white. Dot hatch looks white. Cross hatch looks white. The dots look white. Okay, and raster, there's our red, a little washed out. There's our green, a little washed out. And there's our blue, pretty. There's the bars. black and white, and chroma. It does look a little green, so maybe I'll try to adjust the green down a little bit. Okay, folks, so I looked online at some pictures of the color bars, and that's pretty much dead on the money. In the pictures online, I was reading something about that if you turn off all the colors except for blue, like all 4 of these will be blue or something like that. And on the pictures online, that one seems slightly more purple than this one, which is kind of how this looks. I don't know. It looks good to me. I bet it's close enough, right? Now, the convergence being off a little bit, I'm not going to mess with that. On the arcade games, we mess with that a little bit, and it's not a good thing. And I don't know about the bar at the end. This isn't centered if you look, so I don't know if that's a problem with the TV or, I mean, that might just be a horizontal position thing. So I guess we just need to hook up some kind of signal to it, and we can tell from there. But I like this NTSC generator. I need to repair it though. I need to get the fuse that goes in it, and I need to get the proper cord for it, but that's really all it needs.